Dragi gledalci, dobrodošli u još jednu epizodu emisije Diplomata. Moj današnji sagovornik je ambasador Portugala u Srbiji, njegova ekscelencija Žoze Veleš Karozo. Your Excellency, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on our show.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine.
Now, it's safe to say you had an impressive career throughout your diplomatic career. You've served in South Africa, in Brazil, in the US, and now Serbia, each with its own political nuances. When you take a look at this global arc, how has this shaped your view of diplomacy, not just as a legal craft, but also as human dialogue?
You know, that's true. I have already been in very different places. And, you know, there are always more or less two theories, if I may say so, in terms of the diplomacy. Either you are more specialized, let's say, in one particular region or one particular subject in the multilateralism or area, or you could, let's say, have a broader perspective and try a little bit, if I may say so, of not only geographical, but also in terms of the matters and the subjects that you deal.
Of course.
It was not chosen, but it happened that in my career I was in different continents, in the south, in the north, in Europe, in Africa, in
so all across the globe,
Southern America, North American, before arriving here in the Balkans and in Serbia. And I must confess that this, I take it as an advantage, because seeing and living and working in different places, when you are in one place, of course that place is, let's say, the center of, I don't say the center of the world, but your center, and you had to adapt and to see and also to try to understand why in that particular part of the world people act in a certain way, think in a certain way, have particular attitudes, and it's an advantage to know, let's say, the different centers, to have also a more, let's say, balanced idea and some thoughts, even when you are then in another place where also it's the center for the people that lived and work there. On the other hand, it's very rewarding because if you also see, let's say, the difference and their singularities and their characteristics, also at the end you manage to see that human beings are all the same. And the aspirations and what really the normal people, families, youngs and old people, have more or less the same aspirations of living in peace, freely, try to achieve their goals and their dreams. And that doesn't differ from Africa, from Latin America, from here in Europe. That is also, I think, what we see when living and working in many different places around. We see the difference, but we also realize that perhaps it's much more what united us than what could perhaps in certain ways differentiate us.
Absolutely. Now, an encouraging information for the bilateral relations between Serbia and Portugal is that their diplomatic relations span over 143 years today. What do you think made this relationship last so much, and how can it grow even stronger?
Yes, this is a consequence of course, our both countries are old countries.
Yes.
Are, let's say, old nations that, of course, with the origins goes back to the Middle Ages. There are even some interesting connections at that time between what was happening here in the Kingdom of Serbia and also in the Iberian Peninsula with the beginning of the Kingdom of Portugal. So more recently, it's, let's say, normal that the relationship have been established already almost 1.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Then also they have deepened more, let's say, in the past 50 years when Portugal became a full democracy. We celebrate last year the 50 years after the Coronation Revolution of 1784, where we also once again were opening worldwide, when we also had many embassies that were re-established in many cases, like also here in Belgrade. So we have a long tradition, a common heritage, but I think that tradition, what should tell us is to do more now in the present, and especially try to be more ambitious in the future. So in terms of exclusively bilateral relations between Portugal and Serbia, they are excellent, let's say, at a political level, and we would like to encourage more in terms also of the economical terms, because also in what relates to the cultural and even the social, the human relationship between our two peoples, I think they are not only very good, very encouraging, which should, let's say, pushes us to try to deepen and to try to do more and better, let's say, in the 100 years to come.
Of course. Now, Portugal is often described as a bridge builder within the EU. Could you tell us what role does Portugal have in shaping the tone of enlargement policies of the EU, not just towards the Western Balkans, but towards Serbia specifically?
Thank you very much for the kind words about Portugal, and of course I tend to agree, not even only in European terms, but even worldwide. We have always tried, or at least do our best, to be always an honest broker, to try to make bridge instead of walls, this is also perhaps one of the reasons why you see many Portuguese personalities, let's say, having or being in charge of international positions, either in the EU, in the European Council, either in the United Nations. It is not something that only now, it has already in the past decades. It's a recognition of the Portuguese external policy that is, of course, a policy fundamental based on the UN Charter, on the human rights, on the values also of the European Union, the rule of law, and trying also to understand the perspective of the other, and also try in a positive way to bring all parts to the table and to try to achieve, because only together and through negotiations and, let's say, peaceful means, we can achieve the goals. And also in our history, and we have a long history, you also have lots of different periods on that history, but it could give us some kind, how should I say, also wisdom and in dealing with those subjects. Also, the fact that Portugal has always been a crossroads of different civilizations, people. Also, the fact that we also have been abroad in different geographies, and also, I think, plays a role.
Absolutely, that experience helps you.
That experience helps, let's say, that we have those characteristics nowadays. And even if geographically and even demographically we are not a big country, we could say we are a medium size country, but because of that we try to give, let's say, our contribute or in terms of the international community and the international relations, try to favor, let's say, those elements, which it's not always easy.
I can imagine.
Especially nowadays,
yes.
as we
can say that the diplomatic scene has never been more delicate than these days, definitely. Now, throughout your career, you've also led the North-South Center of the Council of Europe. In this regard, how do you see the role of Serbia in bridging regional divides in topics such as youth, migration, but also human rights above all?
Yes, you pointed out, and I see that you were seeing very well my curriculum, and I was proudly director of the North-South Center of the Council of Europe, that is based in Lisbon since '89. I was fortunately in 2019 to be at the commemoration of the 30th anniversary. And it's very curious because the first time that I came to Belgrade and to Serbia, it was in 2019.
Oh, wow.
To a parliamentarian assembly of the Mediterranean that took place here in Serbia, in the National Assembly, in the Parliament, in the beautiful and historical building of the Parliament here in Belgrade. And at the time, I had no idea that 5 years later on, I will be ambassador here. And Serbia is a proudly member of the North-South Center. It became a member in 2009. And as a partner, it has a lot of programs and projects, namely with the youth, because what this center does, the name relates very much, let's say, with the 80s and the 90s, because nowadays we don't talk so much about North and South.
Yeah, as much the East and West. Yeah.
Also, the world has changed. But what the center does in terms of intercultural interchange between youth, working close with the Council of Europe, which also Serbia is a member. It's very rewarding to work with the youth, put together people of different regions of Europe. Also, in more recent years, we have working a lot with the countries of Northern Africa, southern part of the Mediterranean, that parliamentary assembly that took place at that time in Belgrade, it was specifically about that. And I well remember those days that I was working in the center. The center continues doing he did a great job during the COVID-19, even with all the constraints. And Serbian continues also, so it's the flag of Serbia is in the center in the building in Lisbon. I remember very well. And what the center does, I think nowadays is more needed than ever.
Certainly.
Put people together to reflect, to really experience. In this case, particularly with the youth, with the women, the rights of the women, and also with the concerns of the problems nowadays with the environment, with everything. So yes, and Serbia is a part of it. And now I am in Serbia, which is good. So as
you have
see,
returned,
sometimes
with a different.
we go a little bit around
yes.
to arrive at a certain point. Exactly.
It's certainly a diverse experience that you had there. That's something that Portugal emphasizes a lot is democratic values and dialogue in the Western Balkans. In your view, what's the most effective way for EU member states to support the Belgrade-Pristina dialogue without, of course, undermining trust on either sides, really?
Yes, it's really, really important. As you know, it's one of the conditions, even in terms of the broader context of the enlargement. And of course, we could only favor the dialogue. Dialogue, it's necessary at least two. And so it's also necessary that not only in Belgrade, but also in Pristina, not only in Pristina, but also in Belgrade, to really dialogue. And I think the key word here is normalization. Sometimes we should go step by step in a very realistic way, and from the bottom.
Yes.
We know exactly, of course, which are the positions, let's say, which is at stake, and which are the very fundamental thoughts, either in Belgrade and in Pristina, and that's a reality. But that should not be an obstacle. On the contrary, for really go further, especially in terms of very concrete steps and things that the people in Kosovo, that the people in Serbia, the Serbian people that live in Kosovo, yes, especially the northern part, all the question of the municipalities of the Serbian. So I remember when I was arriving here, the question of the plates in the cars. So, you know, at the end, like the European Union, we do things in order for, in the daily life, we could, let's say, have better solution, practical ones, in a peaceful atmosphere. Of course. And this is why I know that the special envoy, the EU representative Peterson, also have already been here. He will also come here. It's one of the issues that is always, of course, on the table. The President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, that was here recently, last week also. It's also a subject that we should nourish all the time, not to be, let's say, disappointed or if sometimes things are not going, let's say, so speedy and in the direction that we would like, but on the contrary, because we favor, you also know what is the position of my own country. You also know that even in the EU there are different positions of other countries. But I think we all agree, and that it's necessary, of course, that dialogue be fruitful, be meaningful, and at the end arrive to a normalization in order of the people to really live peaceful and to really live with the conditions that we find that are, of course, necessary. And we are here to give all the support, also in the framework of the accession for the European Union. Of course. And, in this case, as you know, my country is always in favor of the enlargement of Serbia, the enlargement of Kosovo, when this will, in the future also, later on, could take place. And so we were talking about, let's say, the Portuguese, more or less, mentality or approach in terms of international relationship. So it's a question to translate also here in this question and issue that we also know it's very sensitive for both parts. Reason why we should work more in order for them to join. Absolutely. And not, let's say, separate or be a
not watch from the sides, but be a part of it.
Exactly, and have a common goal. And that's possible.
Yes. And it's in the interest of the European Union, the Balkans, and everyone here, really.
I think it's in the interest of all, absolutely, yes.
Certainly.
Yes.
Now, during your meeting with Serbia's Parliamentary Friendship Group, you discussed joint protocols in culture, education, science, and the economy as well. What concrete steps are being taken to turn these proposals into lasting partnerships?
First of all, let me say that the importance of the parliamentarian diplomacy. I have already been here in the National Assembly several times in different compositions, but it's really important what the groups of friendship, what the committees of foreign relation, European affairs are doing, because parliaments are the house of democracy, are really the house of the people. In parliaments, you always found not only the majority that supports the ruling government at a certain moment, but also the opposition.
Of course.
And you know, you serve your country either in the government or in the opposition. So it's exactly the same. And in a parliament, you have, let's say, the whole spectrum. Since
yes.
the right to the left, to the far left, to the far right. So it's really where you have all sensitivities, all political opinions. So it's very good that in a very open way, parliamentarians from different countries speak to each other, even to found common ground, even to found things to disagree, even to found the difference. It's a very important dimension, and here I see that the Serbian parliamentarians are involved not only in the Assembly Parliamentary of the Council of Europe, also in the NATO Parliamentary Assembly. So there are lots of connections, and they know each other in the parliaments, and in many ways, after the people that are in the parliament also go to the government. Yes. So that's life. This is why it's very we encourage this kind of diplomacy. And in our case, we cannot, let's say, substitute to what does the assembly here does or what does the Portuguese parliament does. They are separate sovereign entities. What we can do as embassies is to support, to put people in contact through our ministries in both capitals, also to reach out. And this is why, and now I come back to the different areas that you have rightly mentioned. Yes. We have memorandums of understandings in all of those areas in order to pursue the goals, because the final goal is to try to bring and to try to connect, in this case, the peoples. And through the parliaments is the best way, because also the parliamentarians are the ones that are really in touch, of course, in their constituencies with the people.
Now, another sector that connects countries is, of course, economy, and the trade between Serbia and Portugal has seen a double-digit growth in both ways. What do you believe is driving this momentum, and is there any untapped potential here?
We are very happy that in percentage there is a significantly grow, 50 or 60%, which is good in the past 3-4 years. But I must confess that the numbers per se doesn't yet translate what we would like and what we see as the potential that we could have in terms of specifically bilateral trade relations. Either in the case of Portugal or in the case of Serbia, we are talking about still less than 1% of the total in either cases. We know that with the accession of Serbia to the EU, within in the single market, we expect that those numbers could grow exponentially. We also, even in the Portuguese economy in the past 20 years, had made a huge transition. We also had our share of crisis. It's not only here or in the other parts of everybody
is going through
their own crisis. We also had some quite difficult economical and financial crisis that we have overcome. And in the final of that process, we are not only a very open economy, which also sometimes it's not easy in terms of the current international business atmosphere, because we are very sensitive to changes, because we are very open to what happens in Europe and worldwide. But we also became an economy to export goods and services. And almost half of the product is of things that we export. And we have diversified a lot. Of course, geography matters, and our big trade partner is Spain, for obvious reasons. It's our neighbor. Then everything in the EU, German, for obvious reasons, like here. So everybody trades with German. And then, of course, the US, and we also have traditional relations with Southern America, namely Brazil and Africa. Traditionally, the Balkans have never been, let's say, in the mind of our businessmen.
And understandably so. Yeah.
And also, we are not, we cannot go, let's say, but I think now, when people are diversifying more, when things are not so far as they used to be.
So it's becoming possible.
Yeah. Exactly, with the digital economy, where you could have, and we have Serbian people that are now in Portugal teleworking, that you can make your own business in the net, and so that you are much closer. We hope, and also because there are a lot of opportunities also here, also being Serbia the biggest by far economy in the region, I think that we can only grow those numbers, and I expecting that if the percentage will, in a certain way, will also push for a more robust trade balance and the current trading between our two countries. And let's hope, of course, being market economics, both Portugal and Serbia, this is something for the businessmen themselves. But as countries, we could encourage, and we could, of course, give the support for the entrepreneurs and for our firms to do so. And I think they are starting to realize that.
So the framework is there, yeah.
The framework is there, and let's hope that we could, those numbers, not only continue, but really go a step further.
Of course. Now, one of the other important exports of Portugal is, of course, its culture. So we're talking about fado, literature, and architecture as well. Could you tell us, in your opinion, what cultural exports of Portugal maybe speak the loudest to Serbian audiences?
That's true. I was truly amazed, positively amazed, how Serbian people like fado. One of our best modern singers, Marisa, and it's not necessary to make publicity of her, because she's already very well known, and she came here each and every year for huge concerts. She's very, very, very famous. Was even awardee from the Serbian Republic, which was truly an honor for her, and from our own country, Portugal, of course. But not only those more, let's say, famous singers, but in general, and we can see that by cultural activities that we also have here in terms of cinema, theater, and sometimes even when not fully understand the language, but there is a great, people are very, they like it and they enjoy it. And I must say, it's very rewarding to do cultural events here in Serbia. In general, the public, people that are a very good public, and even the artists tell us that the reaction, the curiosity, the engagement.
So they feel comfortable here. Yeah.
Very comfortable, and they want to return. All kind of festivals that we have here, even more traditional ones, more modern ones, from jazz to rock to fado. They are successful, which is good. So I think, and you know that culturally, sometimes we look at culture like something apart. The economical weight of culture is huge. What we call nowadays the cultural industry. I remember many years ago when there was that discussion about movies and about, at the time it was between Europe and the United States, between some European countries that were more protecting their movies vis-a-vis Hollywood, and we realized that, for instance, movies or the movie industry, and nowadays you could see even through the platforms, so let's say the Netflix, we are talking about numbers that are higher than the car industry.
Yes.
And we don't realize
it is
that.
impressive, yes.
Oh, this is the culture nowadays, and we can see that is not only, of course, to preserve your own specificities, the richness of your literature, your language, your cultural expression, but it's also an economical, powerful tool that mainly in Europe we should and be able to use, to preserve and to take advantage. Yes,
certainly.
Yes. And I think here in Serbia you have a very rich culture yourself, and you should be proudly also to bear in mind that economical, let's say, part of culture that we tend sometimes to forget. That
Absolutely.
is really important.
But it's very real.
Very real. It's a big percentage of
Definitely.
the product, and sometimes we don't realize
pay attention to it.
Yes.
And maybe another bond to mention is our sports as well. Serbia is very passionate about football. Portugal is as well. How do you see these tools working for diplomacy overall?
Yes. The sports also, from an economical point of view, is something that, and it's growing. You know, sport is a very interesting thing, even from a cultural point of view, because in a game you have rules, and then you have teams, or either it's an individual sports or let's say a collective one, and then you have all the passion, all the emotion, because you are from one team, but you have a referee, and at the end one wins, the other lose. But what is really important is the rules and the fair play, and even if you lose, you will have a next game or another presentation. And so we should not never undermine the importance of sports at local, regional and international level. Absolutely. And now you see, once again, Portugal, we are not a big country geographically and demographically, but in sports,
it's a completely different story.
Everybody knows Cristiano Ronaldo, which is still playing at 40 and still scoring, and we are still, so it's our, let's say, national, international, and Euro 4. We are going to have in 2030 the World Cup organizing with our friends and brothers in Spain and Morocco. So it will be Portugal, Spain and Morocco that will hosting the 2030 World Cup, and that will be quite interesting to see. It will be the 100th World Cup, so I think it will start in Argentina, in Uruguay, yes. And then it will have semi-finals in Lisbon and in Rabat, and I think perhaps the final in Madrid. But to come back to sports, is very important, sports nowadays, in the sense that it must be something to unite us. I know, for instance, here the Expo 2027 also, it's the playground, it's the leisure and the activities, but also the sport. So sport is really important. Of course, when we are seeing, sometimes we lose and we became, let's say, irrational, but only when we are seeing the game.
It's a good lesson in life and diplomacy.
Exactly, and then we have all that energy and we get the charge, and then and we never lose hope, because if we cannot manage, there is also another opportunity,
the next game,
and we go next game with the same enthusiasm.
Definitely.
Yes.
Now, for the last question of this interview, I want to know, how do you see the future of relations between Portugal and Serbia?
In a very positive way, because as I was saying before, they can only grow, deepening, and be, let's say, more profound and robust. And I'm seeing Serbia in the EU, also with other candidates that have applied for already a very, very long time to the EU, and even other countries that are not from this region. We have always favoring enlargement, because we also saw the benefits from ourselves of being in the EU. We have been in the EU. We are celebrating this year together with Spain 40 years. It was also not easy at the time, in the 80s. It took us almost 10 years in negotiating. We were with Spain at the time, the EU was only 12 member states. Then I remember 15, then 25, 28,
so Portugal has
27.
seen the involvement of the EU, yes.
Exactly. And I think for Serbia and for the other Western Balkan states, it will also improve their neighborhood relations and their bilateral relations among themselves, as it happened with my country, with our neighbor Spain. It has changed everything for the better. And so I think the same will happen here. And because I see from a human point of view, from the populations themselves, and now we are knowing each other a little bit better, because we are seeing more Serbian people that are going to Portugal, more Portuguese that are coming here, taking advantage. Our Serbia is flying to Lisbon and to Oporto, and so from Belgrade. And that will bring, I think, almost inevitably a more close and deepened relationship between our countries, because our people, I think, are very similar, have the same aspirations, and I think also deserve to achieve the same goals and the same dreams. So
absolutely,
I think we are here definitely and what we can do to practically support that of course is the role of the embassies here, as the embassy in Serbia in Lisbon, to bring us more together and more close.
Your Excellency, thank you for the optimistic vision of the future and your message, and thank you once again for taking the time of your day to speak with us for our show.
Thank you. The pleasure was mine. Obrigado. Hvala puno.
Dragi gledaoci, hvala vam na pažnji. Gledali ste razgovor sa njegovom ekscelencijom Žozeom Velešom Karozom, ambasadorom Portugala u Srbiji. Ostanite uz nas jer dalje idu diplomatske vesti i diplomatski događaji.
Jugoslavija je bila jedna od osnivača Ujedinjenih nacija, a njen duh otvorenosti i danas živi kroz partnerstvo Srbije sa Ujedinjenim nacijama. Izjavila je Matilda Mort na obeležavanju Dana Ujedinjenih nacija i 80. godišnjice ove organizacije. Prijem u Muzeju Jugoslavije prisustvovali su predstavnici vlade Srbije, brojni članovi diplomatskog kora, partneri Ujedinjenih nacija i predstavnici civilnog društva.
U Srbiji priča Ujedinjenih nacija duboko ljudska, ispisana u učionicama, zdravstvenim centrima, lokalnim samoupravama, kao i u životima ljudi koji su pretvorili prilike u promene. Zajedno sa vladom, lokalnim zajednicama, civilnim društvom i međunarodnim partnerima radimo na izgradnji Srbije koja je inkluzivna, zelena i otporna, gdje se poštuju ljudska prava i niko nije zapostavljen. Naši programi pomažu mladima da razviju veštine budućnosti, podržavaju poljoprivrednike i preduzetnike da grade održivije biznise, jačaju institucije, kako bi pružale bolje usluge i socijalnu zaštitu. Podržavamo lokalne inovacije, pomažemo zajednicama da se prilagode klimatskim promenama.
Prema rečima Dominike Krojs, angažovanje Ujedinjenih nacija u Srbiji i širem regionu ima duboke korene, oblikovane sukobima 90-ih godina i međunarodnim odgovorom kojim je upravljao Savet bezbednosti.
Tokom 90-ih, kada se Jugoslavija raspala u ratovima, Ujedinjene nacije su bile na velikom ispitu. Od Hrvatske do Bosne i Hercegovine, Severne Makedonije i kasnije Kosova, mirovne snage pod njihovim mandatom bile su raspoređene kako bi obuzdale nasilje i radile na zaštiti civila. Izazovi su bili ogromni, mandati su bili ograničeni, rizici su bili veliki, a pouke ponekad izuzetno bolne. Ipak Ujedinjene nacije nikada nisu otišle. Ostale su da pomognu u obnovi institucija, obnovi poverenja i podršci pomirenju.
Srbija je posvećena punoj primjeni rezolucije 1244 mandata UNMIK-a koji mora ostati snažan i adekvatno finansiran. Radujemo se nastavku bliske saradnje sa UNMIK-om i sa Kancelarijom Ujedinjenih nacija u Beogradu, rekla je pomoćnica ministra za multilateralnu saradnju.
Naravno, rezolucija Saveta bezbednosti 1244 temelje koji potvrđuje suverenitet i teritorijalni integritet Republike Srbije, kao i status naše južne pokrajine Kosova i Metohije u okviru Republike Srbije. Položaj srpskog i nealbanskog stanovništva na Kosovu i Metohiji je težak i veoma složen. Suočavaju se sa progonima, zastrašivanjima i pritiscima svakodnevno, a njihova osnovna ljudska prava ozbiljno su ugrožena. Ova teška situacija dovodi do postepenog i tihog odlaska srpskog stanovništva iz svojih vekovnih domova. To je neprihvatljivo.
Osnivačka povelja Organizacije Ujedinjenih nacija potpisana je 26. juna 1945. a stupila je na snagu 24. oktobra iste godine. Prijem povodom obeležavanja Nacionalnog dana Austrije održan je u Beogradu, a okupio je predstavnike diplomatskog kora, političkog, javnog i poslovnog života. Bogata kulturna i ekonomska saradnja i posete na visokom nivou potvrđuju bliske veze između Srbije i Austrije, rekao je ambasador Kristijan Ebner.
Srbija i dalje predstavlja važno tržište za Austriju. Obe zemlje ostvaruju visoke prihode kada je u pitanju izvoz. Oko 800 naših kompanija obezbeđuje radna mesta za 1000 ljudi u Srbiji i predstavljaju važne partnere u sektorima bankarstva i osiguranja, građevinarstva, telekomunikacija, logistike, agroindustrije, energetike i u mnogim drugim oblastima. Realizovali smo mnoge kulturne projekte, od muzike, književnosti i filma do eksperimentalne umetnosti i naučne saradnje.
Svečanosti su prisustvovali i predstavnici kompanija koje su lideri u svojim oblastima i koje veoma uspešno posluju u Srbiji.
Osnovani smo pre 2 veka u Austriji. Trenutno poslujemo u više od 30 zemalja, a u Srbiji smo započeli sa radom pre 20 godina kao greenfield investicija. Mogu reći da smo kompaniju izgradili od nule. Počeli smo kao mali tim od 7 zaposlenih, a danas zapošljavamo više od 1300 stručnjaka. Jedna smo od najvećih osiguravajućih kompanija u Srbiji, a naši akcionari su veoma zadovoljni poslovanjem ovde. Verujemo u srpsko tržište i veoma smo optimistični u pogledu budućnosti. Ovde planiramo dalje širenje poslovanja i nova ulaganja.
Na svim tržištima centralno-istočne Evrope UNIKA pruža sigurnost za sve građane, pojedince, korporacije i svoje partnere. I u duhu sa sloganom naše kompanije Živimo bolje zajedno trudimo se da taj rizik koji pojedinac ne može da nosi praktično preuzme zajednica. I na taj način pružamo ne samo sigurnost, nego se staramo da naša zajednica, naši partneri zaista žive i posluju bolje zajedno. U Srbiji UNIKA osiguranje posluje od 2006. godine, evo sledeće godine će biti punih 20 godina. Naši klijenti i partneri su nekog koji zaista UNIKU smatra za inovativnu, modernu kompaniju, gde zaista na tržište Srbije iz Austrije dolaze brojne inovacije, dobre prakse i zaista nešto što mi možemo samim tim i da unapredimo i iskoristimo na našem tržištu.
Kompanija Wienerberger je jedan od globalnih lidera kada su u pitanju rešenja i proizvode iz oblasti građevinske industrije. Osnovana je pre više od 200 godina u Beču, gde je i sada centrala firme. Na ovom tržištu smo prisutni od 2014. godine, imamo pogon u Kanjiži, lideri smo u proizvodnji crepa, sa brendom Tondak najviše radimo te proizvode, ali takođe prodajemo i druge proizvode kao što su bekaton ploče, blokovi i cevi. Ono što nam je jako važno je što oko 40% svoje proizvodnje izvozimo i to ne samo na okolna tržišta, već i šire. Ako pričamo o tome kako je raditi u austrijskoj kompaniji, mogu da kažem da je nivo poslovne kulture izuzetno visok, da se mi lako snalazimo u tome svemu jer nema velike disonance i razlike kada je u pitanju geografija i sama neki kulturološki aspekt. Firmama iz Austrije su jako bitni i potrošači i zaposleni, društvena odgovornost je veoma u fokusu i neki dugoročni rast i razvoj i direktnih i indirektnih subjekata koji učestvuju u poslovanju kompanije.
Nacionalni dan Austrije obeležava se od usvajanja Ustava iz 1955. godine, kada je ta zemlja proglasila svoju stalnu neutralnost. Nacionalni dan Mađarske svečano je obeležen na Belom dvoru, a događaju su prisustvovali gosti iz političkog, diplomatskog i kulturnog života, kao i predstavnici mađarske zajednice u Srbiji. Srbija i Mađarska su susedi i pouzdani strateški partneri, čemu svedoče savezi i susreti na visokom nivou, rekao je ambasador Jože Mađar.
Gasovod, Balkanski tok, prema očekivanjima, obezbeđuje snabdevanje gasom centralnu Evropu, a uspostavili smo i mađarsko-srpsko-slovenačku berzu električne energije sa centralom u Budimpešti. Mađarska je podržavala srpsku vladu u odlaganju sankcija protiv NIS-a, a u trenutnoj situaciji spremni smo da doprinesemo bezbednosti snabdevanja Srbije.
Srbija i Mađarska su ključne u povezivanju Evropske unije i Balkana. Mađarska je 5. najvažniji trgovinski partner za Srbiju u uvozu i izvozu, dodao je ambasador. Belgijski investitori izgradili su u 19. veku prvu železnicu u Srbiji. Prva Narodna banka Srbije osnovana je 1884. godine uz podršku Belgijske nacionalne banke, a inicijalne srpske novčanice štampane su u Belgiji. Ove istorijske podatke izneo je na proslavi 15 godina Belgijsko-srpske poslovne asocijacije njen predsjednik Hugo van Weghel, istakavši da je misija asocijacije ostala ista – jačanje društvenih i poslovnih veza između Srbije i Belgije.
Počeli smo skromno, ali uz posvećene ljude koji su godinama dobrovoljno preuzimali zadatke kao članovi upravnog odbora, od kojih su neki i danas aktivni. Zahvalni smo na stalnoj podršci Belgijskog ministarstva spoljnih poslova, Belgijske ambasade i Kancelarije za privredne atašeje. 2012. godine sa samo 16 članova potpisali smo prvi memorandum o razumevanju sa Privrednom komorom Srbije, pridružujući se platformi koja je omogućavala dijalog sa ključnim ministarstvima i institucijama. Tokom pandemije COVID-a nismo proslavili 10-godišnjicu, ali smo naučili nešto vrlo dragoceno što primenjujemo do danas. Kako ostati povezan, kako efikasnije komunicirati online i kako nastaviti deliti znanje i iskustva čak i sa distance.
Odnose između Belgije i Srbije prepoznajem u Andrićevom citatu. Kada mislim na prijateljstvo, vidim ga kao dve lampe koje svetle jedna drugoj, a da pritom ne umanjuju svoje sopstveno svetlo. Nismo najveći klub, ali smo veoma složni i ponosni na sve što smo do sada postigli. Ovo je udruženje dve ne tako velike zemlje, ali mi želimo da učinimo najviše što možemo kako bismo povezali poslovanja u oblasti kulture, nauke, trgovinskog preduzetništva i drugim oblastima.
Srbija i Belgija su zapravo zanimljiv i savršen spoj za biznis. Tradicionalne belgijske kompanije posjeduju inovativne tehnologije, pristup tržištima Evropskoj uniji, ali i visoke operativne troškove, dok Srbija ima kvalitetne inženjere, niže troškove poslovanja i dobar pristup nekim novim rastućim tržištima. Srbi se dive belgijskoj čokoladi, zanatskom pivu i pomfritu, a Belgijanci su se zaljubili u srpsku šljivovicu i hranu. Zajedno nudimo snažnu vrednost našim članovima i njihovim klijentima.
Belgijsko-srpska poslovna asocijacija osnovana je 2010. godine u Beogradu sa ciljem povezivanja poslovnih zajednica Belgije i Srbije. Služi kao forum za ekonomsku saradnju, umrežavanje i promociju zajedničkih interesa u različitim sektorima.